Welcome to the Product Boss Podcast, where we help product-based businesses grow their sales and improve their strategies.
Hey everyone, I want to introduce you to my co-host and biz bestie, Minna-sode, an Amazon guru that has built a multi-six-figure product-based business.
And introducing the other half of the Product Boss, Jacqueline Snyder. She has helped launch and grow over 500 fashion apparel and accessory brands, even one of her own.
And together, we share our inventory of secret weapons that will help you dig deep and do the work it takes.
Are you ready? Let's build together. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Product Boss Podcast. I'm Minna, your host, and today I have a very special guest. Jacqueline is missing, and so I invited my friend Kevin on, Kevin Sanderson, that I met at Seller Summit, and he has a really interesting product. They're gift items in the kitchen category, and I thought that it could be interesting to hear his strategy. So, Kevin, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how your entrepreneurial journey began?
Oh gosh. So where do I begin? So, well, first off, thank you for having me, Minna.
Of course.
Yes, we had a good time over there at Seller Summit. So my entrepreneurial journey began, I guess maybe when I was a little kid. I was going around to houses trying to sell lemonade. Door-to-door model didn't really work. That was the long-term strategy. But then, I got out of college and I decided, I was going to go the corporate route, worked for a couple of Fortune 500 companies. And I was just deciding that, I had this burn inside to do something different than just, working the 9 to 5. I still have a 9 to 5 job, but I have my, 5 to 9 job on top of it. And I kept thinking to myself, like, what is it that I can do? And I remember, I want to say this was like 2004. And I bought a couple of Nike Forwoods on eBay, which I guess at the time would have been like arbitrage, but no one used the word arbitrage, or who knows? You didn't have as good of forums and ways to research how to do stuff as you do now. And my thought was, okay, if I could buy these for like, let's say $40, then I could sell it for like $300 based on going to Nike.com and seeing the manufacturer's suggested retail price. The problem with that is that's the manufacturer's suggested retail price, not the actual price. So they just kind of sat on my shelf. In fact, I still have them in the garage. One's in a bag collecting dust, and the other one actually still has the dust cover on top of it. So fast forwarding a few years from there, tried a couple different things, and I was working for a hotel company, and we got bought out by a bigger hotel company, and my level in the organization didn't exist. And as there was getting to be pressure at the company to cut costs, my position was a casualty, if you will, of that merger. And they ended up letting me go, and it was a blessing in disguise. So I now work full-time in the insurance business, but it just really had me thinking more than anything, having all my eggs in the basket of a job is kind of dangerous, because the job can be taken away at any time. You could be doing a good job and your boss thinks highly of you or whatever the case is, but then all of a sudden someone else comes in, buys it, and they have different expectations. Now all of a sudden they're holding the cards and they're deciding things. So I decided I needed to do something. So, it took me a little while to get up and running, but eventually in about 2015, so about 3 years ago, I started dabbling in retail arbitrage on Amazon, like actual, like taking, like not just guessing like I did with eBay and then never did anything. I was actually taking the scanner from the Amazon app around at Walgreens, and I was scanning stuff and seeing what could sell. And I remember I got a bunch of stuff that was like clearance for like the summer stuff that was going out to bring in like the back to school items. And I ended up selling, the first day it got into the warehouse, one of those little like blue things you put in your freezer that helps keep your drinks cold. Like an ice pack, I guess it would be. And I just remember looking at the app on my phone, and like, every time I looked at it, it said 0. Like sales. And I remember refreshing, and all of a sudden it said 1. And I probably made like 50 cents, but it didn't matter. It was this rush of adrenaline, like, oh my God, this is real. And I think more than anything, my problem before was I never had anything that was making it real to do these kind of entrepreneurial things. And it was becoming real selling physical products. And like, I'd actually made around that same time a sale doing something kind of more affiliate related to something in the insurance business, but it wasn't the same, because like with products, you can touch them, you can hold them. It just feels more real to me. And then actually seeing the sale was like, oh my gosh, this actually can happen here. So then I started figuring out, okay, what do I need to do to start my own brand? And I went into basically the mode of how do I fund it? And I am a high school football ref in the fall, and the fall was coming up. And so I took basically all my earnings from doing a season of a high school football ref, put that into my first product, and started getting some traction there. You know, it's like anything, you know, you learn along the way, and started investing some more money into the business and keep reinvesting and letting that snowball grow. And now I've got a business that's mostly on Amazon in the US, Canada, and then the 5 European marketplaces that they have, which is the UK, Germany, France, Italy, and Spain. And then hopefully here in the next few weeks, roll out in Japan. And then dabble in some of the other marketplaces, and also have my own store. Although I would say probably 95 to 99% of my sales are on Amazon.
Yeah. So those are the marketplaces for Amazon marketplaces, right? The international ones. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I remember being in the beginning stages and hitting that refresh button like a million times in a row. Refresh.
When's it going to happen? When's it going to happen?
I know. I totally relate to that. But I love that story. And it is so true that a lot of times it just takes that initial sale and then reinvesting. I think that if you have enough grit to kind of get through that initial, you know, lapse of no sales in the very beginning, and you get to that one sale and you're like, woohoo, now I just have to reinvest. It's a little bit scary, especially, you know, I also love physical products. It's nice that you can hold them, but man, oh man, is it scary when you have them stacked in your bedroom, you know, and you're like, are these going to sell?
Yes. I can relate. I was actually listening to one of your recent episodes, and you and Jacqueline were talking about having boxes all over the house, and people, kind of feeling like a sense of like, oh, there's other people that are like that. I was like, oh yeah, there's other people that are like that. Cause like you walk into my house and it's like, welcome to the warehouse.
Right. You know, actually, Kevin, you are the first guy that we have on our podcast. So congratulations.
Oh, wow.
Welcome.
Well, thank you.
And so I think it lends to, it's cool to see that, you know, it's not just other women that have all these boxes around their house, but men too. And you kind of have to, you know, balance it out. So I was wondering, since you have a giftable item, does your strategy change throughout the year? And does your strategy change throughout the year for your home life too? I know for my home life, sometimes that shifts as well. Can you kind of let us know what your life is like over there in Florida?
Yes. So it's the interesting thing is, my busy season for e-commerce is fourth quarter. In fact, last year, I want to say it was pretty close to, if you took my sales in November and December, it was equal to the rest of the year. Now, granted, I was adding more products, so it's not exactly apples to apples, but still, it's definitely skewed towards the holiday season. And, you know, the unfortunate part for me is, you know, I also have football season. I also have, the fact that at work, that's our busy season where I work, we make most of our money in that time period too. So it's a lot of stuff going on. So yes, so lots of boxes going in and out of the house. So typically what I do is I've got someone that helps me prep some of the items, and then I, you know, set up the shipments and send them out to Amazon. But yeah, it's a lot of in and out of boxes. Thankfully, there's a lot more boxes coming in, but there's also a lot of boxes going out. So it's not building up like it does during the summer, because I'm ordering stuff, but it doesn't move as fast. so
So,
to
what
speak.
about summer sales for Prime Day? Do you get any traction during Prime Day?
The last 2 years, not really, but I haven't really done much with Prime. Um, I, yeah, I guess that's a good question. Like, is there something I probably could do with Prime? Potentially, but my stuff hasn't really lent itself well to Prime. I think people are looking for deals,
Hmm.
and I just haven't been aggressive on pushing a deal, but I still get the residual traffic compared to, like, 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after.
Yeah. So during the holidays, do you add like additional discounts and things like that, or is it just the fact that it's of that season?
I actually usually raise my price at the holidays.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So one thing I notice is, like, the cost of advertising might go up a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
like on a per click basis, but it's usually not too bad. And there's usually enough inventory of clicks and things of that nature to cover the cost and to, get me sales. Cause I think a lot of people, they just don't know what to buy. So if they find something like, oh, that's interesting, they just buy it.
Yeah,
So
they're in that buying mode for sure.
exactly. So being a giftable type item, I try to prepare somewhat for having, in my product sponsored ads campaigns, I try to start putting in more keywords that are like gift for brother, gift for sister, gift for boss, gift for coworker, um, white elephant, um, Yankee swap, all the different variations of reasons people might give someone a gift around the holidays. And I find that, like, if I just put all those out there, oh, another thing is gifts under, and then just start putting in increments of $5.
Oh,
So,
super smart.
yeah. So if the product, let's say, is $20, gifts under 20, gifts under 25, gifts under 30, gifts under 40. Like, at the end of the day, if it's still meeting their criteria, they're going to hit it. In fact, if it was like I was selling it for $22, I might still even go after gifts under 20, because people can still decide whether or not they want to buy it.
Yeah, and for our listeners that aren't on Amazon, this can be
Mhm.
done on Google, this can be done on Pinterest, even those long tail keywords of gifts
Mhm.
under. It could be a blog post that they, push out there. So
Oh,
those are some
absolutely.
ideas for sure that, they can even probably do a roundup with other bloggers,
Mhm.
that everybody's ideas and say, now move on to the next blogger who has her ideas for the, top 10 under $5 or something. So that would be a way that they could do it outside of Amazon even.
Mhm.
So do you
Absolutely.
do anything outside of Amazon as far as like pushing external traffic?
It's the only time of year I've had success doing, like, the Google shopping ads, because typically I'm just burning money. um,
Aren't we all
doing
at
shopping.
Facebook ads money down
Oh
the
yeah,
drain?
exactly. I dabble in Facebook ads a little bit this year, but I just, between being busy with the full-time job and then, the extra demands of, lots of stuff coming in and out of the house, um, I haven't focused too much on Facebook. But yeah, there's lots of different opportunities around the holidays because people are
Yeah.
buying. In fact, I would say even on my website, like, probably 95% of the sales I make on my own website happen at the holidays. Like, people are just more likely to buy, whether it's through Amazon or on the website or whatever. I think
Do
they
they
just buy
find
more
you
at the
from
holidays.
Facebook ads though, or they find you organically from your Amazon listings maybe?
It's a good question. Probably maybe some of it is the Google shopping ads I run.
Mhm.
And I think some of it is just people might be looking for the types of products I'm selling. So they're more likely to just organically find it, maybe through long tail keywords that I'm not even really trying all that hard for. They're not looking for that the rest of the year, but they are around the holidays. And so I end up getting some sales that way too. Oh, and then eBay too. I get more sales off of eBay than I do the rest of the year as well.
That's cool. So during the Christmas season and everything, there's some, I think a great idea, though I haven't tried this. I thought maybe
Mhm.
that you might have, is that people release like limited edition stuff, right? They
Mhm.
do just for the holidays, we're coming out with this. Do you ever do any of that kind of stuff? And do you find that it's successful? Like a
Yes.
bundle, sometimes they're bundles.
Yeah. So I've got some products that would lend themselves to putting designs on. And so
Mhm.
I put like a Christmas design where it's basically, let's say, the same product as product A, but I make it product B for the holidays and sell both A and B, so to speak. But B has like a Christmas tree and says Merry Christmas.
Great.
So the supplier is willing to make that modification for me. And that moves because people are looking for Christmas related stuff too.
Yeah. So I totally forgot that you had a full-time job, which I
Yes.
remember saying that, asking you if you had an exit strategy. A lot of our listeners are women that are super high achieving and they end up retiring their husbands to either help them in the business or, I don't know, retire and do something else that they want to do. So what about you? Do you have intentions of retiring your wife, and would she want to be part of the business?
My wife actually is a full-time stay-at-home mom, and then she's got actually a part-time job that she has, and she dabbles. I wouldn't use the word dabble. She also has a direct selling business, but for the most part, she's happy doing what she's doing, and I'm happy with my job. I work with good friends of mine that I knew even before I started working there. And I would say for me, the good thing is because I work in insurance, I just kind of now gotten that mindset of it's protecting risk. So, that going back to that risk of having a full-time job and all the eggs are in the basket. So, my income with the job has been, the last few years, about 90% of our income as a household. And, if God forbid, all of a sudden something happened and they had to close down, which I don't see happening, but you never know in this world. Like, all of a sudden, the CEO of the company decides that I was working at before that they wanted to, spin off the company. We were all going to now work for another organization that had, different goals and organizational structure. You never know that could happen. I didn't think it was going to happen to me necessarily. And, it did. So for me, it's less about the exit strategy and more just about like, okay, how can I have more options? So if I did get to a point where, okay, it's, I wanted to leave the job, I could do it. Or if I'm working because I like the job, not necessarily because I have to. I think, in some ways we all have a job when we feel like we're doing it because we have to, but imagine if you're doing your job only because you like it. And if, the place closed down, you'd be like, that's fine. I've got plenty on the
Yeah.
side that'll cover my
And
bills.
yeah, it alleviates a lot of the pressure. And,
Exactly.
that's fantastic that you have a job that you like too and friends that you're actually working with.
Mm-hmm.
But it puts you in a kind of a bind for time. And
Oh
so
yeah.
can you share about you just hired a VA? What does she do? How did you hire her? And this is for your 5 to 9 job, right? So basically you're hiring that VA to alleviate some of that time pressure that you have from being full-time as well.
Yes. So I actually negotiated with them for at least the summer, working 4 days a week instead of 5. So I just dropped my salary by 20%. And then I've been working a lot on, to your point, getting my VA up to speed. So there's a website called onlinejobs.ph where you put up a job and people apply for it.
In the
Now,
Philippines.
Oh yes, sorry. Yes, that's what the PH part is. So yeah. So the nice part about the Philippines is everything I had read and heard is like I want to say it's the third largest population in the world of native English speakers.
Yeah, their education brings in English. So they're very heavy into teaching English, extended education like college and stuff is all English.
Right.
So I think that really helps because then it builds in that culture of English speaking and they already know it from like when they're little.
Right, exactly. So they kind of already have a Western mindset, so to speak. Like I think, because they were part of Spain for a long time and, for a while after the Spanish-American War, it was part of the U.S. So I think a lot of kind of Western thought is already ingrained in them. And they're hard workers. They're known to be very loyal. So for them, you could pay them less than what they'd make here. And sometimes it feels kind of weird. Like, okay, I'm offering this person less than they would, I'd be paying someone here in the US. But then like I was noticing on onlinejobs.ph, like everybody was asking for less than what I was paying. So I still paid what I offered because I put it in the job description. But then what ended up happening was I remember putting in the job description, let's say it was like 9:00 at night. So they're 12 hours ahead of us. So I woke up the next morning, which would have now been like basically the day just happened in the Philippines. I had like 130 applications.
Because that is a mega salary, I bet, over there, whatever you posted.
Yeah, it was like, let's say $600. And, people might say, well, wow, that's not very much. Well, the cost of living is much less there than it is in the US. And like, I'm basically offering like a 50% increase off of what a lot of them were asking for. And I was giving them whatever the national holidays were in the Philippines and all that fun stuff. And they'd be working from home, and in the process, I noticed a lot of people were talking about, they were traveling 40 minutes to an hour each way to get to their job. So it's a good opportunity for them. So what I ended up doing, because I was just overwhelmed by like, oh my God, all these people I got to sort through, and how do I know? So what I ended up doing was I said, okay, I had heard that if you ask a bunch of questions, like that they must answer, it's a way of saying like, are they really vested into it? So what I did was I said, okay, I'm going to close this job out. I'm just going to hit the reset button, so to speak, and start scratch. So I put in the very top of the job description, like a bunch of asterisks, and said, you must read this in its, this job posting in its complete or incomplete, all tasks listed to be considered, something to that effect. I wordsmithed it more than I just said there. But what I then did was I had like towards the bottom, these are the questions you must answer to be considered. And number one was, who is the second president of the United States? And then I put next to it, you are highly encouraged to research this if you're not sure. Because if I put first president of the United States, that might be more common knowledge. I don't know how common it was. But, and I told them they had to put that in the subject. So they had to start their subject with basically John Adams.
Mm-hmm.
And so very quickly I could see who was applying. If I didn't see John Adams dash whatever, or John Adams, excited to learn about, this job or whatever they were saying, I just deleted it because they didn't pay attention. And then I had some other questions. One of them was like, and I heard this somewhere, was basically I sent them to a Myers-Briggs, which is a personality indicator, and I had them send me a link to what the results were. So like, it takes them like 10 minutes to fill it out or something like that. And so one, I could see a little bit, with their personality mesh with mine. And also two, what I had heard was, and I found this to be the case, are they following directions? So if the direction was send me the link, not a screenshot, a link, did they send the link, then they're following directions. Then I had a couple other questions like that. And then it drastically reduced the number of people I got responses to, because there was a little bit more skin in the game they had to put, so to speak, with their time. And, I think one of the questions was, why did they want the job? And then, another question I asked in that first one was, tell me about a time where you didn't understand the expectations of what task you were asked to do, and what did you do about it? All I was asking for was some version of, they asked me to do X, I didn't understand it, so I went back and said, can you please clarify this for me? That's all I really wanted. Because one of the things I've heard is a cultural thing in the Philippines is they're not very confrontational. And so there's a concern that like, sometimes if they don't understand what they're supposed to do, you'll not hear from them.
Yeah, it's I think it's all Asian cultures, but you're taught never to ask questions. Like, don't ask questions ever. So if you're confused, you just do what you think, or you ghost them.
Right. So, and the ghosting seems to be the MO. And I've heard a lot of stories from people that have had virtual assistants or, whatever the job is for somebody in the Philippines. And so I was like, let's just see if that helps weed people out, that at least I'm kind of subtly setting the expectation of like, are you going to ask me the question? And pretty much everyone answered it that way. And so then I started asking a few follow-up questions, and I think I got down to like 4, where I basically said, here's a list of tasks. I will pay you $20 in PayPal if you complete these tasks. And it was mostly like, I had him do like a Google Sheet where, I mean, it was like some crazy tasks. Like I sent them a link to like the cities in the United States. And I said, take all the cities in the United States that are like in the top 500 or whatever that are in the state of Texas, and then list them alphabetically.
Holy moly.
Yeah. So it was like just random tasks like that. Or if I said it's this time in this city, what is it in these other cities? So can they research? And then, you know, a couple other little, just can they do research? Can they take minimum amounts of direction? And then, you know, basically could they complete tasks in either Excel or Google Sheets? And so, you know, like sorting and filtering and stuff like that. So since they were able to do that, okay, then I got down to a last couple, and I ended up I decided which one I was pretty confident in, and I did a Skype interview with her, decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and offer the job. And so now she works with me, and we've been together. We've been working together now for about 6 weeks.
And how's it going? Is she up to your expectations, you think, so far?
Yes, she's doing a good job. Now, the thing of it is, I went into it knowing like, okay, this person doesn't know everything I know about the business. And it forces me to think of things for her to do, because now all of a sudden I'm paying someone a salary every month, and it's like, okay, I got to make sure that I'm at least getting the value I want out of it. And so it forces me to say, okay, here's what are some processes. And so, you know, it's a lot of getting her to just learn about Amazon, learn about my products, learn about, you know, back end things. So there's been a lot of cleanup work that I realized just because of that time crunch of having a job and doing this full time. It was just getting to a point where it was like, okay, I can only do so much, and little things were starting to fall, like not really, you know, optimizing keywords on Amazon, or, you know, some of my listings probably need to be cleaned up a little bit. And so having someone now that I can say, okay, let's basically do an audit of everything, put it into a spreadsheet, and then start looking through, okay, this needs to change this. And so now showing her how to do that. So now she knows how to, you know, create listings, or, you know, we need to create a listing for this that's not in France, but it is in the UK. So I have inventory, so I might as well go and list it. You know, just little things like that. It's been very beneficial. So
Yeah, I love
would
that. I
say,
think that's really smart, the audit and cleanup of it.
mhm,
I mean, there's so many things, right? Just like what you
yeah,
said, the having some listings in the US and not having them in Canada, and then I
right.
mean, you would think it's so easy just to copy and paste, but it is not.
Right. Well, it's one of those things, like it's simple because
Uh-huh.
literally it kind of is just copy and paste, but it's like anything in this, when you go from like, you know, starting out and like, you know, maybe you have like one product, it's like everything is easy because you can all relate it back to that one product, one marketplace. At least this was kind of my journey. But then as I started getting, you know, more products, more marketplaces, everything just becomes more complex. And so you got to create a system, and then maintaining the system is time. And then it's like, you know, you got to have every little, you know, go here, go there, copy this, paste that. It's time consuming, and you don't realize, like, you know, even if a task only takes you 5-10 minutes, just adding them up over time, it's just, you need someone else to be hitting copy paste.
Actual human.
Yeah.
But you know what I think is really smart is that you're doing this right now during the summertime. So when it's your busy season, hopefully you won't be in this learning curve of teaching her how to do these simple tasks. So I think that is really smart to hire
Hmm.
sooner than you think, and then also in advance, well in advance of your busy
Hmm.
season.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And, you know, it's easy to think like, okay, oh, the holidays, it's like, you know, we're recording this the end of June, and, you know, you can think like, oh, 4 or 5 months from now is when it will start to pick up. that'll be here like that, so it's like starting to look at like inventory levels and all the stuff that goes on. And like for me, it's like not even just the holidays, but it's like everything right after. So it's like, got to start reloading, so to speak. And one of the issues I ran into this year was I didn't reload fast enough with, inventory, and it shot me in the foot with a few of my, better selling products because, we have our new year January 1st. It's usually early February that like China shuts down.
Yeah.
Like they're gone for like a month. Like factory workers, they're gone for 5-6 weeks in some cases, depending on the factory. Then it's like, from my understanding, it's not like, okay, on this day, everybody shows back up. It's like they pray that they all come back. And so they're kind of getting into the groove, so to speak. And, all of a sudden it's like, okay, the factory's kind of getting their own flywheel going and just getting started. So, it just takes them a little while to get up and running. So an order that might have taken 4 weeks before, once they're right after Chinese New Year, and all of a sudden it takes like, 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. So then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, I'm running out of product. I'm ordering it. And they're like, oh yeah, we will, we have Chinese New Year. We're going to close in 3 weeks. We're not going to be able to get it done by then. And we'll pretty much take 6 weeks after Chinese New Year. So it's like, oh my gosh.
Praying is right.
Yes, a lot of prayer.
It does completely shut down, and there's nothing that you can do. But a lot of new sellers don't know about that time, and that's whether or not they're importing or manufacturing over there. I guess it's all manufacturing, but that amount of time for sure. Like right now, if you plan to have inventory at least into Amazon and you're importing from China, you better order it now. Like, if you want it for the holidays.
Oh yeah, you better get it in.
Yeah. So, speaking of Seller Summit, I forgot to mention we were in the same mastermind too.
Yes.
So let's chat a little bit about that. Like, were there some takeaways that you really loved, or how did you feel about the event?
Yeah, so it was really good. So, one of my big takeaways, which was, I'm a pretty analytical person, but I had no handle on my numbers. I was starting to realize. And so I remember we all kind of got our spot in the hot seat. And our leader of the group was asking me, actually right before we broke for lunch, because I was the last one before lunch. It was kind of like, well, you shouldn't be selling internationally. That's just a waste of time. Why are you doing it? And I didn't really have a good answer. And then it was like one of those things. I was like, I actually woke up at like 2 a.m. like that.
It was haunting you?
Yeah, it was totally haunting me. Like, wait, I feel like it's a good thing, but like I didn't have like that. Okay, here's why I do it. So what I ended up doing was basically creating where every week I go in and I put in like some basic numbers on my Amazon per marketplace. So I did it this morning for last week, and I do it every Thursday because it's Thursdays that I'm off right now. And I put in for the previous week, like the sales, how many impressions I had on Amazon to basically figure out my, my conversion rates. I've got my PPC spend. So how much I'm paying for ads, how much I'm making for sales based off of those ads, of my total sales, what percentages, and I'm doing all that per marketplace, and also looking at a couple other markers. So this way I have a good handle on it. So then I'm also putting in like the conversion rates that Amazon's using currently. And what that's helping me do is figure out, okay, so based on what I'm seeing in Amazon, internationally, whatever I'm getting in the US, it's about 25 to 30% bump. So what I should have come back at was there was a minimum number to achieve to be eligible for that mastermind group. Mm-hmm. Now, having a full-time job, and I'm probably haven't done it as long as a lot of people in that room had, I wouldn't have qualified if it wasn't for my international sales.
Yeah.
So what I really realized is I need to have like a basic, I kind of feel like it, or, whatever, not just like, okay, figure out all the numbers, hand them to my account at the end of the year to do my taxes, but like more ongoing, have a better handle, and not just like, okay, kind of know based on like the margins for a product and how much it costs me to fulfill, this is what will make me profitable. And then kind of taking that as a bridge to how much money I have in my account. And if I feel like there's a good
I have
separation
the
from,
time. I have the time.
yeah, exactly. Then it all kind of works. But now I'm realizing like, okay, it's time to grow up and be a big boy business owner and have a better handle on it. So I think more than anything, that was really my takeaway. And I've really been working a lot on that. And it's a lot of the projects I've had my VA work on with me too.
Yeah, I love that so much that you actually took a takeaway and that you built a system around it to be able to answer that better next time. I'll tell you why I do it. I actually sell in the UK and in Canada. I do
Okay.
it because I don't think your egg should be in any basket.
Yes.
Amazon US, Amazon Canada, Amazon Germany, they're all unlinked. So if my business went down the toilet in the US or my account got revoked or something, I would still have those international accounts. Mine is 15%. So of, like of the sales that I make overall, 15% is international. That doesn't seem like a lot, but I have like 3 listings in those countries.
Right.
And so but the other thing too is there's a difference of margin because of the conversion rates and all that stuff.
Yes.
So I have to be aware
Especially
of
in
those.
Europe.
Yeah, what a pain,
Yeah.
right? And the VAT
Yes.
and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So, even if you're not on Amazon, you should be diversifying for sure, even onto any platform, and know what percentage that brings into your business. So, if your main bulk of your income or your revenue is taken away, like Amazon is taken away, you still have Walmart, you have Jet, or you have, flash deal sites. So that way you aren't in Kevin's shoes and you don't survive the merger.
Right. Exactly.
Baby
Exactly.
Kevin before. Like that's what it is. You're basically not surviving your account being revoked for Amazon. And you need to be able to survive that as, a big brand, like a real legit one.
Right, exactly. And there's so many ways to diversify. And one of the things I noticed is there was a gentleman who was in our mastermind group, and his story was he had a product, if I remember correctly, that was selling like 100 a day. And it was a very generic product. It was like one that like I think a bunch of people figured out very quickly that
How
they
to
could
knock him
sell.
off.
Yeah, that they could knock him off. And so all of a sudden he went from being like one of a handful of people that sold this to all of a sudden he's one of many. And so he now has a collection of these products in his house, I think, that he
Yeah.
can't sell.
Yeah, that's really tough. I think that you have to have a unique selling point. If it's not your actual product, it has to be some other sort of competitive advantage. Also, listeners, that is an episode that Jacqueline and I already recorded about competitive advantage. And it could be something like your brand, or anything else that really lends to it really adding to your value for the customer
Right.
that people won't be able to knock off, I guess, as easily. He created a mold and everything and put money into it, and by the time that he got back around to it, he had been knocked off by a bunch of sellers. But I believe in him. I think that he can outsmart those sellers. It would just take more reinvestment if he wants to do that or not.
Yeah, and that's why I think like if you can go wide with several products, like I probably have around 40 SKUs. And, doing that, even if like there's probably only a handful of like actual products itself, like I guess you can say that a lot of them are in the same family. And it's helpful having a variety of stuff. So if that way, one listing was suspended for whatever reason, it's not the end of the world. And that happened to me actually last year in the holidays where I had this one product. It was actually my very first product. So it had plenty of history. All of a sudden it got flagged as being potentially hazardous. There's nothing hazardous about it. There was never a concern brought by a customer. It was just some algorithm went through and started flagging things. And I remember hearing about this on somebody's podcast where there's a few people had this happen to, where all of a sudden, it gets flagged and then, putting in a couple trouble tickets with Amazon and, all of a sudden it's fixed, but it was out for a few days during the busy time of the year.
Yeah. And it's like freak out mode.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, ugh.
Good
But
luck getting a hold of Amazon, by the way.
right, exactly. Cause it's like the people that fix it are actually like on another team. So,
Yeah.
it's like you're really dealing with the intermediary who's basically just sending an email to the person that handles it and
Yeah.
hoping they translate correctly what you're trying to get across.
Yeah, it definitely takes a little bit longer. I mean, that's the way of being on somebody else's platform. So,
Mhm.
how are you pushing external traffic to your own website? How is that going, or are you focusing on that at all?
That's one of my goals for once I have Amazon more cleaned up is to start doing more giveaways and things like that, to start building a list
Hmm.
and hopefully selling to those people quite a bit during the holidays and really kind of getting going, like maybe doing some free plus shipping offers, things like that is I guess you could say my vision. But right now I'm focusing more on just getting cleaned up of stuff and having a better handle in the numbers so I can make intelligent decisions and not just, well, I feel like.
Yeah. So I don't know if well, you wouldn't know because I barely told anybody, but I launched another brand, another product, and it's charcoal soap.
Oh, wow.
Um, and so I have little labels, which is, like it's in growth and it's in
Hmm.
expansion and everything. It's so easy, not easy, but it's more comfortable, right?
Right.
And now that I'm back in startup for that particular product, like you would not believe the self doubt that I have. And I'm like,
Hmm.
I remember these feelings. Like melting soap in my head has been haunting
Right.
me. So it's like being in that startup stage, but it's definitely for sure that getting everything cleaned up helps out a lot. And then you do feel like you're a little bit in startup when you're shifting your focus, even if it is like shifting your focus to your own website or something. It definitely
Hmm.
comes easier in the growth stage, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. I can only imagine like kind of starting from scratch with like a different brand, because to your point, those doubts creep in. Like, even for me, like, sometimes if I take an established, kind of product line and say, I'm going to roll out a new version of it, you're still like, oh, is this going to sell? Am I wasting my money? Am I wasting my time? We get these fears every time we want to do something different.
Yeah. And then you have, like the Jordans in your garage to remind you.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, Kevin. Well, I don't want to take too much of your time. So, we usually end the podcast with some fun questions. I'm going to just do them off the top of my head because I forgot to pull them up. But
Sure.
okay. So, this is kind of like, what is that called? Fire, like when you answer really quick fire. Okay.
Okay. I'll do my best.
Okay. So, what is your coffee order?
Venti iced coffee with vanilla with just a little bit of cream, and then sometimes a mocha frappuccino.
Oh, wow. I see. That
Yes, if
is
I'm splurging.
extravagant.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have an alter ego?
Oh, do I have an alter ego? I guess it depends on if you ask my wife.
Kevin, the insurance man.
Yes,
Um,
Kevin the insurance guy.
what's your favorite thing on your desk?
My post-its.
Your post-its. Okay.
I have probably way too many of them. Too dependent on them.
And last is what is the last show that you binge watched?
Ooh, Shark Tank.
Oh yeah, I could see that for
Yeah.
sure. So I do want to leave off with I want to add this additional question because Jack and I have been kind of teasing each other about how much we've grown. It's like that saying of we heard somebody say that entrepreneur years are like dog years, and I
Mm,
totally believe that.
yes.
So we've been calling each other like the old versions of ourselves, like baby Mina and baby Jacqueline. So this would be baby Kevin that didn't know anything about his international sales, right?
Right.
So if Kevin now could tell baby Kevin something or give him a piece of advice, what would it be?
I would tell myself, don't get too wrapped up in foreign language marketplaces too quickly, because like Canada and the UK, they're fairly simple. They speak the same language. Culturally, they're almost the same. Just stick with those until you really have a better handle on your numbers and everything else. Because then I probably wasted too much money on PPC and foreign language marketplaces. Like, I don't even know what these words mean.
or if you're, or the numbers, right? The numbers
Oh,
are
right,
missing.
right. So and then having the time to go into the numbers. So yeah, I would say don't get too eager too quickly to go into the foreign language marketplaces after UK and Canada.
Okay, great. So, let our listeners know where they can find you. You have a YouTube channel, right? And if there's any way they can reach out to you.
Yes. So I have a YouTube channel. It's called Maximizing E-commerce. So you just go to youtube.com/maximizing e-commerce. And also have a website, maximizingecommerce.com. And, one of the best ways to get in contact with me is just leave me a comment on one of the videos on the YouTube channel.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Kevin. And it was awesome having you here.
Thank you. It's glad to be here.
This episode was brought to you by our new mastermind program, Holiday to Halo. You get the guidance of both myself and Jacqueline as your coaches inside an amazing group of fellow product-based business owners. Starting in September, we'll be getting a head start and ramping up to make a big impact on sales for the Cyber 5, which is Thanksgiving through Cyber Monday. Then on to Christmas revenue strategy. And to boost your growth into the new year, we'll be setting your business up for Halo sales into Q1. We would love for you to join us. Go to theproductboss.com/mastermind for more information.
Loved this episode of the Product Boss podcast? Head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. We would so appreciate it.